Hi, everyone. An important video. I just remembered that my first so-called spiritual seeking outside of my family home when I left at 18 to move to Los Angeles was kind of a traumatic event. It involved what they call themselves a church, a business of Scientology. So I was doing fine in Los Angeles. I had a job and I was living in a place with a roommate, but I needed seeking spirituality has always been a lifelong goal of mine. And here I was 18. I went to Hollywood Boulevard and found the Scientology outreach center there where they offer you a free personality test. I thought, well, this is good. I need to find out more about how I'm functioning. Let's take this test and find out. So I took the test and they're like, oh, well, you have major problems with responsibility. You don't take responsibility. I'd always considered myself extremely responsible. I moved to LA with savings account, with my truck paid off. I wasn't, my idea of responsibility apparently was different than what they were talking about. So I wanted to figure out what that meant. So I went to their Los Angeles A org in East Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard in Vermont, which still exists today. It's a huge hospital complex. They have the A org for the general public, and then they have the B org for celebrities, and C org for people that need like addiction treatment, basically people who have submitted themselves to being almost incarcerated. This big hospital complex that they bought out, and so they own the whole thing. It's still there today. They've even built a new structure on the premises. But here's my story. So I paid for a communication course, which is your first entry-level course. And I took that, and I realized that everything that they were talking about doing was going to be really, really expensive. All these hours of auditing connected to the little cans, connected to an e-meter, asking you questions and trying to, make your way up their bridge to being clear. Well, it takes hours and hours and hours, and it costs a lot of money. You're talking, they are selling packages, anywhere from any amount of money. I had a friend while I was there that his grandmother died. He inherited the house in Long Beach. He sold the house and gave the entire amount of money. He was an 18, 19-year-old guy just starting his life. Gave all the money to Scientology to buy his way on the bridge, never knowing that that money he gave them is going to run out before he ever gets there, and they're going to want more. Well, I decided, well, it's cheaper. I only had like $1,000 in savings, so I thought, well, I'm going to blow through that pretty quick doing this. Let's see if I can, work for it, work for my bridge, for my auditing work. Okay, so they gave me a position to work and in the organization. Here I am, 18 years old. I'm used to having a union job with wages, good pay, benefits, health care, all kinds of stuff. Maximum 40 hours a week. If not, you get paid overtime. Well, with Scientology, it was different. You're expected to be there 12 days a week, 12 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week. And they say that your pay is going to be based upon the income, which will be a percentage of that will be split amongst all of the volunteers. They called us volunteers. All I knew is I was working for money so I could pay them for a service. It's a business that they market as a religion. So my job was I was very good at typing, run the teletype machine, send and receive messages, which had to be sent to other organizations in the Scientology organization throughout the world in code so the FBI couldn't read them. It was completely explained to me that everything had to be coded because the FBI was trying to get them, and so therefore, we had to use some kind of secret code to send the messages and then to decode them when we got them, and then I would type them out or print them out and deliver them to whatever party in the organization was receiving the message, and then they would give me messages that needed to be coded and sent to other parties and other Scientology orgs around the world. That was just one of my jobs. The other one was running the switchboard. It was the old-fashioned kind with the quarter-inch plugs and the headphones, like worn by Lily Tomlin, and her one ringy dingy comedy sketch. That was the kind of switchboard that I operated, as well as having keys to the entire organization, the A-org. We were responsible for bulk mailings that went out all the time, and there were people requesting to be released from their mailing list, and it would take a threat of legal action for us to remove them from the mailing list. They were not to be removed unless they were threatening legal action. Scientology wasn't worried about legal action. They had plenty of attorneys working for them. But I guess that's, just to avoid overworking their attorneys. They'd have us take them off the list only for that circumstance, not just for asking to be taken off. No, they wouldn't be taken off for that. So here I am working 72 hours a week, expecting that I'm going to have enough money to be able to pay for my car insurance and my apartment. But all of that was coming out of my pocket, and nothing was going into my pocket with the 72 hours a week. They were saying, oh yeah, you're going to get all this auditing. But then when it would come to make time to make the appointments, I only got 2 appointments the whole time I was there before I realized what was going on. It took me at least about 3 months of working like a slave for Scientology before I finally realized that there was no way financially I would be able to stay independent. I lived in a Scientology group home. The rent was still like $120 a month. I had those expenses I had to do. And then after I moved to an apartment on Hollywood Boulevard that was all totally Scientology occupants with the same kind of rent, but I had my roommate there who had just sold his grandmother's house and given all the money to Scientology. Him and I would do the bulk mailings together, and we were all excited that we were going to go up this bridge and have all these wonderful promises fulfilled that Scientology makes about doing their program. I couldn't get appointments. He got appointments because he had cash. But even after, he gave them all that money, it still wasn't that easy for him to get his appointments to use that time that he had already paid for. Me, on the volunteer basis, or should I say the work slavery basis, I just got done when somebody if I made enough ruckus to get an appointment for auditing, I'd get one. And the first auditor looked at me and he saw the asymmetry of my face and started making a big deal about how one ear is lower than the other and one side of my face is completely different from the other. And, it made me feel kind of really bad about my appearance. And that's never really left me. I didn't realize that was happening and that was so bad, but apparently it is. I've been in some major accidents in my life. Maybe I bent my head all out of shape. But why was I attractive to them to be used as a slave in their A-org is because I had never done any hard drugs. Things that apparently prevent you from being rising in levels in the A-org. So I guess that was attracted to them. And one of the disturbing things that they had me do is write a list of every single person I'd ever had a sexual encounter with. They wanted to know the name, the location, the sexual act, where it was and what it was, who it was with. Here I'm 18. I mean, I could have probably, there was not very many. It was probably enough to count on one hand at the time. Um, and that was kind of embarrassing, because and they didn't really like the and nobody had time for pursuing any of that. There was no time for pursuing sex or anything like that. It was all, exhausting, long days. And these were not just 12-hour days. No, whenever there was a bulk mailing to do, it didn't matter how late you stayed up, you had to get it done. Then all of a sudden, after your whole week of doing 72 hours or 80 hours of work for them, we're being rounded up and being told that we've got to go into this Sea Org, into this huge hospital complex where they kept a lot of people with addiction problems and other incarcerated individuals incarcerated by Scientology. And we had to clean it from top to bottom and paint it from top to bottom before inspection the next day. Oh, okay. I guess they didn't know about the inspection until the last minute, but everybody had to rally around, and each floor was a different color. Our floor was the light blue floor, or probably floor number 8 or something like that. Every little group had a different floor, and we had to go around every single room, every wall, and then clean up the floor as we went. And there were people still in their beds, that couldn't leave while we painted. That was an all-nighter. So these kind of things, apparently, I mean, I was only in there 3 months, and my truck needed repairs, and my bank account was dwindling. Once I got to the level of savings account, where it was only enough to escape, gas money to drive back to Oregon. My mom came down for a vacation. Well, she basically came down to try to get me the hell out of there. And we went to Disney and we did some fun things. And I was really afraid of leaving because they were like right on top of you all the time about how you're doing, trying to see if you're going to leave the organization or going to try to leave. And so I left my king-size waterbed in my 6th-floor apartment in the apartment building on Hollywood Boulevard. And all I did was take my clothes and my electric piano and synthesizer and speakers down 6 flights of stairs in the back of the building because I was afraid to use the elevator. My mother and I, around midnight, we snuck out my music equipment and my personal belongings down 6 flights of stairs, of the back stairs, so nobody would see us, into my truck. She had flown down. So we put it into my truck, and then we headed back for Oregon. No sooner did I get to Oregon than Scientology was calling my family's house demanding that I pay them $50,000 for my work on the bridge, for the 2 auditing sessions they had given me, which were really strange, by the way. They asked me the word control. How do you feel about the word control? How do you feel about the word help? I mean, I can remember the words that they asked me at the very beginning. So one day I just went up, I just announced, I'm clear. Because I was very clear on what they were doing. They were money-making scam and usury of people. So I'd like to file a Department of Labor claim, but this is many, many years later. They would like to come after me and sue me for the money that they think I owe them for the bridge. Go ahead, Scientology. Do your best. You know who I am now and my name now, so come on after me. I invite you to come after me, Scientology, to try to get that fucking money that you think I owe you, because you owe me a lot more than that. You took an 18-year-old kid that had a lot going for him, and you brainwashed him and you used him for up to 3 months before my mom came down to rescue me from your usury and your threats. and your cultish control tactics, promising spirituality and spiritual awareness to people that you don't even have. Scientology doesn't have any of that. It's a science fiction writer who died and who is dead. And when I went to clean his office, they said, be very careful because sometimes he's here. Oh, the dead L. Ron Hubbard is here in the office that they maintain in every single building for him. So who's leading this thing? Some egotistical maniac, money-grubbing control freak is who's leading it. And it has nothing to do with spirituality. I've had a lifetime of spiritual quests. I've worked with 2 different gurus that have millions of followers. I have worked with other forms of spirituality, mystics from around the world and psychics from television and from everywhere else who I have personally known. And all of them have more spirituality in their little pinky than you have in your whole Scientology organization. You guys need to be dismantled. You need to be heavily taxed, back taxed, and you need to have wages paid to all the slaves that you employed for your purposes. So Scientology, you can suck it, you can bite it, you can eat it, whatever. You're going down, and me and many, many other people are going to make sure that you go down, and you're going to pay your taxes for all that property. You're going to have to sell it off, and your shit's going to charity to help young people and anybody else that's been used by your organization. So class action, here we come. Let's all sue the ass off of Scientology, make them close their doors and stop running a business that they call a religion, because it's not a religion, it's a business. It's pure money, money, money for services, and services that you don't even get. So it's not even a legitimate business. It's a rip-off artist business. Thank you, Scientology, for giving me my first experience in an organized cult, a rip-off experience that I will never forget, highly valuable. And I don't owe you for it, you owe me, because I gave you something very valuable too. I gave you my trust as an 18-year-old. I gave you my heart and soul, my long hours of work, when I could have been making a career for myself in LA. Instead, I had to leave town just to avoid being harassed and tracked down and hunted down and imprisoned by you. Scientology, imprisoners, users, abusers. Stay away from them. Don't bother about their Dianetics and all those shit books. If it's got entertainment value, that's about all it's worth. It's not a path to enlightenment. It's a path to usury and slavery. Peace out. Love you all. Have something inspirational tomorrow, but I needed to get this off my chest. Bye.